I believe this is an adult who is gone through a lot of pain, and she's trying to figure out how to walk through some healing with her mom. So I'm going to give you some feedback on that. I so appreciate that you acknowledge and address emotional neglect. I will try to make this as concise as possible. I'm 51 years old. I had everything I needed growing up except for emotional connections. Now, when I read that statement, just so you know, when somebody says, I had everything I needed growing up except for emotional connections, it is like somebody saying, I lived in a mansion, a beautiful mansion, but we had no roof. So, because emotional connection is everything. Our relationships, our bonds with our parents, with loved ones, with friendships, etc. Incredibly important in mental health. But anyways, you go into your journey. My parents divorced when I was 5 years old and married other people when I was 9 years old. I spent the school year with my mom and stepdad, and the summer with my dad, stepmom, and one of my step siblings. Okay, I gotta map this all out in my brain here. My dad had a temper, so I walked on eggshells around him. None of my parents really engaged in much conversation with me, and I spent a lot of time alone. When I was 28, my dad shot and injured 2 of his coworkers and then killed himself. I have been in and out of counseling throughout the years. Most recently, I tried to talk to my mom about my childhood, and although she has apologized more than once and has acknowledged not being there for me, which helps, it seems to not be enough. I asked her to go to counseling with me to work on communication, and she thought it was a good idea that I go, and proceeded to tell me how to find a counselor. Her not wanting to work on healing with me feels like it has broken me emotionally. Okay, there is a stage that we come to in our heart healing journey where we recognize the wounds of mom and dad at different layers and different levels. For many people, there's a lot of forms of denial at first, and we kind of have our scaffolding of what we felt like our upbringing was, and then over time we start to realize what was healthy. There is no perfect parenting. There is good enough parenting. There's a lot of neglect. There's trauma here. There's a lot of difficult things that you're expressing in your upbringing that need to be addressed. There is a tendency in our healing journey, when it has to do with family and our parents, to, when we start to experience some insight, we start to get a sense of, oh, this affected me, this wounded me. We make the mistake and understand this is an understandable mistake. This isn't like you messed up. We all do it. I've done it. Melissa's done it. We've all done it. We make the mistake of going to our parents with this understanding. And number one, it's not going to go well. 9 times out of 10, it's not going to go well. You may get some friendly feedback or things, or I'm sorry, or something like that. You may get that. But it is a first step thing that we do, and we're going to have to realize really quick when it comes to healing through wounds of your parents, especially when you move into your adult years, is I discourage going to your parents with that wound. Your journey is leaving father and mother, and you said you're 51 years old. So I do not recommend adults taking their parents to counseling with them or going to counseling with them. I encourage you to take this step on your own. Leave father and mother, take that step of healing and journey on your own, because it's not going to help the healing. Now, there's this thing called rejection. And rejection's a root that gets into these places of neglect and places where we've been unloved. And it will feed this pattern of we want people to validate our pain and our woundedness, especially our parents. And there's 2 things that happen. They don't validate it, and so that rejection continues to get worse and worse and worse. Or they do validate it, and the rejection continues and gets worse and worse and worse. Why? Because a rejection wound, nothing's ever enough. It becomes a all-you-can-eat buffet that never gets filled. So what you saw here, you went to your mom. She said, yeah, sure, but why don't you go, you do it, which is actually the better step, that you go ahead and go pursue your healing. But when she has validated it, you saw that it wasn't good enough. And that's a sign that place can get filled with a a rejection wound, and it will fuel an excessive neediness to get validated in that. And we all have areas where we've not been affirmed, validated, accepted, and recognized in our pain. We'll have to find other avenues to work through that. So I would encourage you, let go of having to go with your mom to any therapy. Release her to her journey, release yourself to your own journey. You said, once again, I've had to deal with things by myself. I've blocked her and my stepdad on the phone and have very limited to almost no contact with them through email. Okay, so that's where you're at with them right now. So that really, at least for now, further says don't go to therapy with them. My stepdad barely says boo to me. I feel like as a follower of Jesus, I'm sinning by cutting them off. See, isn't it interesting why we're focusing on the cutting off part, whether that's sinful or not? What you did was in establishing a boundary for whatever it is, you're at where you're at and you had to establish a boundary. You can't talk to them right now, and that's where it is. We focus on the sinfulness or not sinfulness of it. Meanwhile, you've got a whole history of stuff that you're trying to heal through. And so, but one of the byproducts of emotional neglect is a lot of guilt. You're very prone to blaming yourself and a lot of guilt. So that's what's coming up in this separation, because you want connection, but they're not a great connection. So I grew up acting as if nothing was wrong and won't do it any longer. Am I wrong to cut them off or have very little contact with them? And if so, how do I have relationships with them when I feel like I'm pulled back into the neglect and it just brings so much sorrow and pain? Thanks for your guidance you can give. I say right now, you're not really talking with them. Pursue your healing journey. Pursue your healing journey and work on it, because any adult has to have space apart from family to work on your issues. And we all make some kind of step that's not good for us. We go to them because we want family to join us in the healing journey. So you feel very alone in it. I want to affirm that, yeah, that's part of it. It's part of the journey a bit, feels a little bit alone, but you're going to get to know yourself, get to know some things that you need to heal and work through. And then in due time, you'll learn how to, what can work. If they're reasonable at this level, you can find a way to do that. If not, is what it is. There's a whole bunch of spectrums of what it looks like to interact with family. I find people are more focused on the rules. What should I do? Should I call this week? Should I meet once a week? Should I do once a month? Should I maybe just go for this? We look for the rule because we're focused on making sure we follow the right rule, not realizing this is a messy journey. And this is where you're at right now. Focus on you getting well. And then as things arise, you kind of go, all right, what could be best here to guard over my healing journey and to honor that, but also being reasonable. It's the best feedback I can give in as concise a way I can give.